Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Equation. I am Linzee Soprani, and I'm here joined with my lovely co-host, Christy Grossman. If this is the first time that you're joining us, we are coming to you live to talk to this amazing, amazing partnership. I always say duo, but this is truly a partnership and has been a partnership since 2010. So we can't wait to dive in and understand how in the world do you communicate with people for that many years and still love each other and build multiple businesses together. They have their hands in so many things. And so I've been wanting to get them on here for a while, and I'm super excited about it if you can't tell. So welcome to the Leader Equation. So I'm Linzee Soprani, I already said that, CEO of Soprani Consulting. We are the top recruiting and consulting firm in the country for all things real estate. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Christy Grossman, CEO of Ops Boss Coaching, the ultimate resource for training and coaching for real estate ops bosses. Welcome to the Leader Equation. So Chris and Caleb, walk us through really quickly, just a quick little introduction on who you are, how you got into real estate, or maybe when you got into real estate, and we'll kick it to Christy after that.
All right. So I think Chris is giving me hand signals that I should go first here. So I got my license in 2005, graduated from Westchester University as a business major with no clue what I wanted to do with my life. And my mother had been in real estate for a while. She said, hey, while you're trying to figure out what the heck you want to do, come get your real estate license. You can work with me as a buyer's agent. So I got my license, proceeded to absolutely crush it by selling 2 houses my first year, and immediately thought, what am I doing? This job is really, really hard, and I'm not succeeding or making any money. And that was how I started my career in real estate.
I love that.
Nice, nice. My name's Chris LaGarde. A little bit about me. I graduated from Art Institute of Philadelphia in '99 with a 2-year degree in art and graphic web design. That was my first career up until 2006-ish, 2007. I got my license in 2006, and it was a very interesting transition. People like to ask, how the heck did you go from graphic web design to sales? Maybe we'll get into it. However, got in 2006, joined a team in 2007. And like Caleb, I crushed it my first year. I think I might have outsold him my first year by a few homes. I think I did like 5 or 6 sales my first year, but I did not do well my first couple of years. And so, but then I met him, we started doing accountability, fast forward, and here we are. And I think it's important. I want to mention I'm a father of 4, been married almost 19 years. I'm a health nut in a lot of ways, love CrossFit and abundant life and Jesus. So that's me. I'm also a coach too.
I also love your humility. Like, you guys stepped into the industry and took it by storm, but it was a long, slow storm. That's awesome.
Slow burn.
Yeah, Christy, I think I realized that I am not I love learning. I love growing, and I love getting better. And I'm a little bit slow at getting things. I gotta be immersed in something for a while. I'm not the person who just instantly gets it. Right? Because now I'm a team leader for Keller Williams, which means I'm essentially the CEO of the office, right? Which means I'm recruiting and coaching our agents here. And I've been doing that role for a little less than 2 years, and doing that through COVID and things like that. And it's been a challenge. It's been a real struggle. And now I'm finally starting to hit my stride almost 2 years into it. So for anyone that's out there in real estate or in any endeavor that they're going into, and maybe you're not, lighting the world on fire right away, I would just say, if it's something that has potential, keep going and learn and get a skill set and learn the business of whatever you're doing, or learn the skill set. And then you can decide whether you like it or not. If you asked me 1 year into my real estate career, how do you like real estate? And I was being honest, I'd be like, it sucks, right? But here I am, 16 years later, I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. My mission in life is to inspire people to maximize their God-given potential and find abundant life. And real estate has given me an amazing vehicle to do that. And so I am just so blessed that I get to impact people's lives every single day. And so I'm just going to encourage people, until you develop a skill set in something, you have no idea whether you like it or not.
Such a good point. Such a good point. Before we dive into the deeper conversation, give us, because I don't think we said, you have a real estate team, your team, like give us the businesses that you guys have your hands in, so we have that overview.
I'll jump in and just say, so we have a real estate team, so we've done that together since 2010. I'm a MAPS coach, so I've been doing that about 2.5, 3 years. We do have an investment property together, and I know we have some investments with title companies and things like that. But that's a majority, and I don't know if I'm missing anything there, Caleb. But that's what
Caleb, your
comes to
team
mind.
For the market center where your team is located.
Yes, correct.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let me jump into quickfire. We're going to quickfire really quick, and then we'll dive deep. So number of years in business together is how many years?
Business married for 11 years.
Business married, love it. And
Chris always likes to make it awkward, so thank you.
As every good spouse should, right? What was your profit year 1, and what do you expect the profit of the team to be this year?
Caleb, what was our profit?
We have no idea what our profit was year 1. I was trying to think. I don't even remember. So we partnered up in 2010. We were both scared out of our minds. We were both buyer's agents. We're like, can we do this? But we kind of knew. We had both taken a class called Bold, which gave us a lot of confidence and the confidence to go out there and try it on our own. And I didn't know if we'd fall flat on our face or crush it. And we ended up selling 50 houses our first year together, and just kind of never looked back from that point. So I don't even remember when we hired our first assistant, but I know we would have no idea what our profit was. I'm sure we were not even tracking that. So a lot has changed in the 11 years that we've worked together. So Chris will tell you what our profit was last year and what we expect it to be in 2021.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I'll throw this in, like our profit was in the tubes, like in 2017, 18. That's a long story that I won't get into right now because we're in quickfire, but it was bad. It was really bad. And last year it was up from 18% the year before to 20 around the last 12. I think the last 12 months running, we're at about 28 to 29%. And so we expect our profit this year to be around $550,000, give or take.
Awesome. Good.
I'll also say when we say what the profit is too, that's with me being completely removed from sales and Chris being completely removed from sales. So we don't sell houses anymore.
And we're gonna dive into that.
Thank you for clarifying that. Everybody, that's like the holy grail that everybody's looking for, that everybody talks about, that nobody actually lives. So this is wonderful. I want to dive into that later. How many are on your team?
We have 12.
12 right now.
And how many do you, between the two of you, do you lead across the market center and the whatever the businesses are?
So we have,
how many do you have,
in our market center, we have 240 agents. So, and then in our business, the 12 that we talked about. So, and then Chris, I mean, obviously you have how many coaching clients that you work with?
Yeah, over, it's around 22, 23, give or take right now.
Okay, so awesome. So you guys were leading almost 300 people between the two of you. What book impacted you the most, Chris?
So where the heck is my answer for that? I had prepared for that.
I already know you're
love that. I love that you wrote it down. That just shows you how different you are.
He's figuring that out. So I am so like looking back on it, you know how you look back in your story and you can just be really, really grateful for some things that you're like, I am so blessed that that's the way this turned out. So before I ever got my real estate license, I read 2 books that got me really excited about real estate. First, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is as a 24-year-old kid. And when I read that, I was blown away because it changed everything about the way I thought about wealth, finances, money, buying assets instead of liabilities. That changed everything. And after reading that, I said, I am going to become a real estate investor. So then I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and that blew my mind, the second time. And so I thought, this is it. I have the perfect blueprint of how to build a business to help me gain the income that I need to buy rental properties. And I was infatuated with the idea of building a business that one day I would be able to exit and would still continue to pay me money to support me and my family. And so like that was such a blessing. Before I ever sold a house, I read those 2 books.
Love that. I have to say you're wiser than I was, because the first time I read the MREA, I was in my 40s and I was like, this is the most boring book ever. And the older I get, the more wise I realize it is. Chris, what's your
There
book?
you go. So I couldn't limit it to one. I will say it was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read that in my 20s, and I'm actually re-going through it right now, and I'm realizing like how that set the foundation for everything. Like, I don't care if you go to Tony Robbins, NLP, Bold, Maps, whatever. There's so much in that book that like it shows up everywhere. And then the second one would be The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Honestly, like it's just the blueprint for everything I coach to, everything we run our business to, and without that, I would be nowhere. So
Awesome.
that'd be it.
Well, and then when you go back on it, I mean, Chris and I met each other at a Keller Williams Exton Christmas party, and we connected for the first time. I didn't know who he was. I saw him around the office a little bit, and we started talking, and we had both just read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So that's kind of how we like first got to know each other and bonded a little bit over that book.
Love that.
Well, okay. I love that.
Streams of income and then superpower. How many streams of income do you each have?
I counted it up. I have 7.
Okay.
So when you say stream of income, if you have an investment property, are you counting all your investment properties as one stream or multiple streams? Like,
we'll let you decide.
All right. So it's 7 if you count investment properties as one stream, and it's 20 if you count each rental.
Okay,
property.
Perfect. Good. And then superpower. You want to say your own, or tell us what the other one's superpower is before we dive in?
I'll go first. I'll tell you what I think Caleb's is, and you can confirm if you believe I'm right. I am constantly astounded at his compassionate leadership. That's how I would put it. Because he has a way, I come to him with, I'm an Enneagram 5. I tend to be more data driven and fact driven, and I don't think about people's feelings and emotions when it comes to things. And I always come to him, and I'm in awe of the wisdom he brings to stuff, and the way that he encourages me or any of us to put things when it comes to people and people's hearts. I'm just like, thank God you're in my life, because like there would be nobody on our team if it were up to me, because they would all hate me. So, I think that's what his superpower is.
I love that. Everyone needs compassionate leadership as part of their leadership team. That's great. Caleb, what is Chris's superpower?
It's funny because I feel like I've known Chris for a long time, and I've known many different Chris LaGardes in the 15 years that we've known each other. Because the man has he is transformed in front of my eyes. I mean, I saw him, when we started working together as business partners. He was not super confident. He didn't really know who he was. He didn't know what his mission was in the world. And I think that what I've seen him blossom into is really, going through MAPS coaching, I have never seen somebody transform and develop so much in such a short period of time as the way that he transformed. Before you were a MAPS coach, dude, I'm going to say that you were kind of lost. Would that be an accurate
I would
assessment?
agree with that for sure, especially at that point, for sure.
You had left sales, and you were looking to find your role in the team and how you could add massive value. And, I remember I had a coaching call with my MAPS coach, and I asked, it was an exit call with my coach, a coach I had worked with for many years. It was the last call we were going to have. And I said, hey, listen, I want our last coaching call. I just want to ask you a bunch of questions. And the last question I asked him, as I said, if you were going to do everything over again, what would you do differently? His answer to me was, I would have become a MAPS coach much, much sooner. I said, okay, tell me more about that. And he said, it has nothing to do with the income or being a coach or learning it's everything to do with the amount of growth that I've experienced since becoming a MAPS coach. And so it was like the right answer I needed at that moment. I said, Chris, I think you should become a MAPS coach. And so all this being said, I told you I was going to take you guys extremely off track today.
No,
right?
but that's
this is
such a
to be
great illustration of how your partnership works, that you were looking to make that big of an impact on your partner and looking for what he needed before he even knew what he needed. Like, that was awesome.
Amen.
So before we dive in, let me just tell those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are the Leader Equation. We're chatting with owners, founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and their shotgun leaders and partners inside real estate and beyond, about what adds to the leadership formula, what subtracts, what divides, and most importantly, how you can multiply your results. And with that, I'm going to throw it back to Lindsay. So now we can talk about the really good stuff.
Can I say
We've already started.
So yeah. Chris's superpower is execution. if it was up to me, nothing would ever get done in a business. My whole life is little piles of undone things that I need to get done that never get done. So Chris gets stuff done. He's great with numbers. He's great with strategic planning and implementation. And I would say that's a skill that you have really honed and developed. I don't think you were always as good as you are right now.
That's interesting. So you guys almost have like flip-flopped strengths from what we normally see in partnerships. That's really cool because I think there are people listening that are going to relate to that.
100%.
Cool.
Well, so we're going to dive in here. We already know how you guys met. It was at a Christmas party, but walk us through like how in the world did you guys go from that meeting to going, we want to be in business together? Because like, were you friends for a while after that meeting, or was it pretty fast?
We dated for a long while. I'll just put it that way. But because Caleb was just talking last. Yeah, we got together at that meeting or that Christmas party, and we're like, why don't we do the accountability thing, right? So I don't know what Christmas year that was. It might have been 2007. That's probably when it was. And then we started meeting weekly for accountability, which honestly, like, it was kind of a joke. We kind of went over stuff, but I don't think we were really tracking things that well. We were just like, hey, what should we do this week? What do you want to commit to? And like, you do the friend thing and like, you don't really hold your friend accountable. It's like, oh, that's okay. You didn't get that done. So we did that for a while. And then eventually, well, if that was 2007, and I think in 2009 is when I took bold first, and there was something that changed. And I actually found, they I don't know if they make you do this now, but we used to write letters to ourselves. And in that, I found it like 5, 6, 7 years later, in that letter was where I came up with the idea to start a team. And it was written in there. And I just was like, you know what, I think we should do that. I think that was the next logical next step for us to do that. And that was in summer of 2009. And then he took it and saw the light, and he's like, yeah, I think we should do that too. And 2010 is when we started the business together. So did I miss anything, Caleb?
I always knew I was going to start a team. I just didn't know I was going to start a team with you. Yeah.
There you go.
That was always my vision. And then you kind of like blindsided me. I was about ready to leave the team that I was on, and you kind of blindsided me like, yeah, what if we did this together? And I looked at kind of your skill set. You were a graphic and marketing guy, graphic design and marketing guy, which is, oh my gosh, like not my skill set at all. And you were kicking butt in sales. And I was like, all right, I can be more of like the business side of things, like lead generation. Like I was calling lots of expireds and just hustling, getting in front of people and things like that. So, I mean, I saw that he had a skill set that I didn't have. And I think, he would probably say the same thing about me. So,
yep.
So in the beginning, 100%. Chris, were you doing some of like the operations work then and kind of taking that, or were you both or neither? What did that look like?
No, really what we did is we split it down the middle, buyers and sellers. He did sellers, I did buyers. And I'll also say this, one of the reasons why I wanted to build the team as quickly as possible, especially once I got a little bit into it. Like at first I really liked what we were doing. It was fun, but then like we had to raise our production level and really make a certain number of calls, and I hated that. Like I just honestly, it was like I'm pretty sure that's part of what caused me to gain a bunch of weight at that time. And so so he did sellers, I did buyers, I did all the marketing, he did all the business administration stuff, and we did our own files, right? We handled transaction management for our own files, at least for the first year to 2 years. I think 2 years is when we hired our first admin, give or take. So.
And so you guys were straight partners, and that there had to be some interesting conversations in the beginning, or was it all unicorns and rainbows and like, this is perfect, we're so happy together?
I mean, this is going to sound a little unbelievable, but Chris and I have had very few disagreements in our 11 years of working together. There have been some. And I'll say this, I think, I said there's been many different Chris LaGardes in our partnerships. There's been many different Caleb Knects, I'm sure, as well. And I think really what it means is like one of the things that unifies us and that we're 100% on the same page with, and probably drives our team members absolutely insane sometimes, we are always making things better. We are committed to growing and getting better. So like, we're going to change. If we thought of a great way to do something yesterday and we found a better way to do it today, guess what? We're going to implement that better way to do it today. And so because we have both been so growth oriented, I think that's what's made the partnership work. Because when I look back at, the different seasons, when we first partnered together, for the first 2 or 3 years that we worked together, Chris was outselling me pretty significantly. And then after that, I started to pull ahead of him. Right. And then, so we've kind of like both switched back and forth over time about kind of who was maybe carrying a little bit more of the load. Right. And so there was a time in our business where Chris got out of sales, and, we came up with this idea with our coach that, hey, we're going to build this thing big. We're going to build it fast. Chris is going to be our hiring guy. Like, he's going to interview a bunch of people and he's going to hire people, and we're going to grow this team really, really fast. And it didn't work out. Okay. And that was a really, really hard season because our team was not profitable. It was profitable, but it was not profitable enough for Chris to be out of sales and still be supporting his family. So I don't know, Chris, you want to talk about that season and kind of like what that was like?
Can I ask one question before we go into that season about what you just said leading up to that, which is there was a time where Chris was leading and a time where you were leading, and it went back and forth. Was there ever any resentment during that time? Because we often see with teams, when one person's carrying the load, the other one feels resentment. How did you handle, what did you do that allowed you to not have resentment, if that's the case?
I don't know what I would attribute this to. I'll say this. We had a coach way back in the day, shout out to Jay Ritchie, who said, the moment you wake up and you don't trust your partner, whether that's in life or in business, you're in trouble. And there's never been a time where I thought that. I've always trusted him, even when we argued, even when we disagreed, which, I can count on less than one hand how many times we've raised our voices to each other, if you could even call it that. And so we've always, I don't know what it is about, I'm kind of the same way with my wife. It's like, we just trust each other. Like there's never a lack of trust. He's never given me a reason to think otherwise, even though there were times where somebody was pulling their weight and somebody might not have been, and vice versa. It was always a trust that we've got each other's backs no matter what. We're heading in the same direction. So what if somebody's pulling more weight than the other? Because there's seasons of life, I know that year that he's referring to, it was like that was really, really difficult. And I was doing everything I could, but I was, ultimately, I don't think I was in a good mental place. And so, we just have to continue to trust each other.
So now go into, you're talking about the next phase.
So as I had mentioned, sales, hitting the phones and doing all the lead generation and stuff was never my favorite thing. And look, I'm a MAPS coach. Like I understand, like, you got to do that. And I did it, but it weighed on me mentally, no matter how much I tried to change my inner dialogue about it. I did it, but it wasn't like, woohoo, I get to make calls. Caleb's a little bit more of a robot when it comes to that. He is, he got over that hump. He has no problem doing that. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? And so I decided, all right, great. I liked hiring, and I'm a developer on the Strengths Finder. That's one of my top 5 strengths, which is not something you really want a hiring person to have, because I always see the potential in somebody, not necessarily who they actually are, which is problematic. And so you can imagine going into being the chief growth officer, I'm in charge of hiring people. I'm hiring people that I'm arguing, to the depths of my soul that we should hire them. And it was like, no, not really. They could be somebody good, but, they're not necessarily. And so I honestly, I accrued a good amount of debt on credit cards that year because I didn't make enough money to pay the bills. And I burned through, I remember talking to Caleb at some point about, like, I was burning through my savings like pretty quickly by like, I made that decision to switch over at late 2017, probably fall of 2017. And by March, I was like, dude, I'm like almost out of money. Like, something's got to change here, or there's problems. And so eventually, that's about the time actually that I decided to pursue becoming a MAPS coach, and grow in that way. And that's kind of when things kind of turned around in a way. So that's a little bit about that.
Why do you think that when you turn that corner to do hiring, now I know how hard that is, but like when you decided to go full-blown recruiting and like, this is what I'm going to do, what do you think stopped that growth, stunted the growth, didn't help you go? Like, was it pickiness? What happened there?
Honestly, it was a couple things. First, my own heart got in the way of hiring, right? We hired the wrong people for the wrong reasons. And honestly, we weren't clear on why the heck we wanted to grow. Like, until you have a clear vision and you know why you're going for it, like selling a certain number of homes or making a certain amount of money doesn't excite us, right? The 10-year mission for our business is to create $50 million in abundance, right? Which goes back to our cost of sales, what our agents earn, and the other half of that is profit and giving, right? That excites us, like helping other people achieve that abundant life. Like, and by the way, we only really clarified that at the end of last year. So, so it was a lack of vision, a lack of clarity on why we were doing what we were doing, and really head trash or lack of clarity on who am I really hiring? What are the qualities that I'm looking for? Because we hired people that had no business being in there, honestly. And we had some leaders in our organization that probably shouldn't have been there either, and turned some people off in a way.
Well, and I'll say this too. I think when it comes to hiring people, I think that season, as painful as it was, I think we did learn a lot from it. But I will say this. One of the things I learned, after going through this season, and we didn't really learn this while we were going through it, is anytime somebody leaves your organization that you had hired, you got to do an autopsy.
Yes.
You got to go through your, we use a process at Keller Williams called career visioning. Go through your career visioning file and see what were the red flags that were in there the whole time that you chose to ignore, or you just skipped over, or you thought, that's not going to be a problem, right? Because people say experience is the best teacher. Well, experience is not the best teacher unless you actually take that experience and reflect on it, look back on it, and learn the lessons, right? Just the experience in and of itself is not going to be the teacher. So, looking at that autopsy of why something didn't work was definitely a game changer for us. And I think also another big thing is values, right? Know what your core values are as a team. Because if you're not crystal clear on it's fine. You don't need to know what your core values are when you're a single agent, because they're in your heart, they're in your head. You know what you won't stand for and what you will stand for. As soon as you start bringing people in from the outside, that's when you have to have crystal clear clarity on those values. And the values are really a great screening tool for anyone you're going to bring into your organization. So if you're, a company is one of our core values is ownership, right? Somebody who takes ownership. Right. So if we see somebody, who's not taking ownership or not taking responsibility for things, we see a pattern of that showing up in the conversations that we're having. They're a victim, or, they're blaming other people or whatever. That's not going to be a good fit for our organization. They'll never last because they don't think the way that we think.
Well, so I have a question then, because Chris, you just said we kind of just came to our vision a year ago, but you've been in business together since 2010-ish, right? So is there anything you would do differently that you would have done sooner to get to that vision, or does it take the time? Because when you're talking about the vision and building a team, because you're building to that vision, what Linzee and I see happen, and I'm sure you guys do as team leaders and coaches, most people are building a team to say, I just really want to get out of production because I'm burnt out, so I'm going to build a team so that I can get out of production, which is not a great vision for your team to be hired to. So is there anything you would do differently over the past 10 years?
I would say, Christy, to answer that question, I would say we did have core values and we did have a vision and a mission. They've just changed a lot. Okay. I think the vision is what we're just much more clear on. I mean, like thinking back on it, I think our first mission statement ever was dramatically impacting lives through real estate. Right. And so we still have t-shirts that say that on the back. Right. And we're still all about that. That's just not exactly what our mission is today. And so it morphs and it changes over time. And like we just, Chris just alluded to, we just clarified our vision at the end of 2020. We also revamped our values and changed those a little bit. 3 of them we kept the same, 2 of them we tweaked. And so, like I said, we're always improving things and making them better. But I think what I will say is this: when I told you when I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I was very focused on building a business that I could exit one day. And I was building a team for selfish reasons. But what ended up happening is over time, as we started hiring and we started to get some of the right people in our world, watching them succeed at a high level was so much more fulfilling to me than any level of success that I was creating for myself. That totally changed, like in my heart and in my head, it totally changed everything. And so it really did become more about, creating true abundance for our team members and providing opportunities and creating, a world that's big enough that anyone in our team who's wildly successful can create anything that they want to within our world. And so as we continue to grow and expand, it's not because Chris and I are trying to become, multimillionaires. It's all about providing enough opportunity for the people in our world that they would never want or have to leave us.
I love that. And I think a question that we've never asked on this, that I feel like we probably should have asked so many other leaders, but I'm going to ask you guys, is how do you make sure that your team knows that that is what you're doing? Because it is really interesting. Like I have seen multiple times where the leader doesn't do a good enough job of explaining that, like, this isn't about me, it's about, us and moving forward and doing something great together. And they lose people because those people feel like, well, this is all about you. And it really is about, you building wealth and you doing this and you doing that. And I think that is a thing that leaders really struggle with. I know I have as well. And I truly do not feel like you guys have struggled with that. Like I have watched your team from afar and have watched, the people in your life. And I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that there's anybody that's left you that would say that was all about them. I think it was always all about the community you were serving. And that was always very apparent to me and very many others. But what do you think that somebody could do, a leader, to just make sure that people don't think that, or does it matter? It might not matter. I don't know.
Well, I think it does matter. I think that when that feedback is given to you, you need to listen to it because there's truth there somewhere. Whether it's just even if it's just their perception, you've done something at some level to help foster that perception. And it probably just wasn't one thing. So the answer to that question from my perspective is you have to really love them. You have to love people, meaning, and not just by saying, hey, everybody together, everybody achieves more. No, you have to sacrifice. You have to give up for them. You have to, give sacrificially. You have to serve them. You have to be willing to get down in the trenches and just be like, instead of being like, well, I'm beyond that now. We have a call night coming up on Monday. I'm going to be there. I already told you how I feel about calls, but I'm going to do it. And really, truly, when I say love them, that means like sit down with them. What are their hopes and dreams? And caring about those hopes and dreams more than they care about them, because we know that's what a good coach does and a good leader does. Understand those things and help them achieve it. That's how they know they love you. And if you do that as a business, they will never leave you. The amount of value that you provide to them, you've got them for life. And I think that's part of what people are afraid to do that. They're afraid that people will leave them, or they'll be, they won't be loyal, they'll be hurt, or they'll be taken advantage of. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You will be. Yeah. But, build a world that doesn't really matter that much. And be the type of person that when that happens, you're able to bounce back from it, and I would rather err on the side of love and be taken advantage of than be selfish and self-centered and not even grow that much. Right. So
I think my answer to that would be, it's all about helping them get really clear and helping them cast a vision for their future and what that looks like. And once you're clear on what their vision is and the goals and where they're going, you got to help them get there, right? That's your job as their leaders, to help them get what they want. If you're helping people on your team make progress towards getting where they want to go, why would they leave you?
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly the flip side of the question that Lindsay just asked, which is what I frequently see on the operations side, is that we have a big vision cast by the leader and then nothing. And then we're just sort of going through the motions and we're not growing and we're not moving as fast as the people on the team would like. What would you tell that visionary and leader?
So I don't even know if I'm gonna answer this question. I'm just gonna say something that I need to say. Maybe it's an answer to this question, maybe it's not. We'll find out. So when you have me and Chris on this call right now, this is an honor, and we're so like grateful to be here. And there's really probably two other people that should be on this call too, because when we talk about the leadership team of the Chris and Caleb team, it's Chris and I and Derek and Jackie that are the leadership team, right? So I think one of the things that we've done best on our team is we've developed some really, really awesome leaders, right? So, the quote that a lot of us may have heard already is like, leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're not creating leaders in your business, you're not doing it right, in my opinion. Let me tell you why you're not doing it right. Because you're going to be responsible for everything. All of the stress, all of the drama, all of the problems, all come back to you as the one leader of the business. When you grow and create leaders within your company, then it really does create that team effect where everyone's pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And that's, gosh, what Christy and I hear so often from people that we consult and coach are that, the leaders don't have time for them, and they don't sit down with them, and they don't care about their goals or where they want to go. And that drives me nuts, right? But then it's so funny because then I look at myself as a leader, right, on the flip side of that. And there were many times when I wasn't doing that same thing that was driving me nuts when I was trying to hold other people accountable to doing it. And that was a big aha for me in my leadership, was like, how I need to sit down and like care about where they want to go. And that's all that matters. And that was the moment that I switched my entire team around, actually. It was like, I am never again going to say, we're going to sell this many homes. I'm going to say, what do you want to do? And what is it in your personal life that's going to take you there? And then that's how many homes we're going to sell, period. And it just changed the dynamic so drastically. But that was a huge learning experience for me. And I'm sure
what Chris was just saying about love. How do you spell love? T-I-M-E.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and the cool thing
I'll be
is
honest,
when you grow leaders within your organization, the leaders are the ones you need to spend the time with, right? And yeah, you want to spend time with other people on your team, but if you're really you can spend a lot more focused time, coaching time, helping them get where they want. And then the leaders helping everyone else on the team get where they want, right? So we talk about like the term leverage a lot, but as you continue to create leaders in your company, you're doing less and less. And let me just share something too. So when I made the decision, I was, talking with the owner of our company about becoming the team leader at KW Exton. I had been a listing agent for 9 years in our business. And so I got a text from Cindy Dickerman, who's the owner of our office. And she had approached me many times about possibly becoming the team leader. And I was never interested. And I got a text from her one day and she said, "Hey, Caleb, I want to talk to you about your future." And of course I knew exactly what she wanted me to become the team leader. Right. So I didn't even respond to her that night. And I was like, woke up real early the next morning, was praying and reading and stuff like that. And I just felt like God was saying, "Hey, I really want you to look at this opportunity." And I'm like, really? And so, when I started going down that path, I had a conversation with Chris one morning. I hopped in his car and I said, I think maybe I should be the team leader. And I had read a devotional earlier that day. And in the devotional, it was talking about how in the Bible, David had wanted to build God a temple. And God was like, "No, I'm going to have your son Solomon do that." And so I said, "Chris, what if someone else is supposed to really build our team? What if we're getting in the way?" And I just believed that. There was a moment of clarity where like, wow, what if we're the ones that are preventing the growth of our team? And so since I've been the team leader, I'm working about 5 hours a week in our business, and our team has continued to grow. Chris is working about 20 hours a week in the business, and it's continued to grow. And so sometimes we're actually the one that's sabotaging our business when we're thinking in our mind and in our heart, oh my gosh, if this is my baby, if I let go of it, it's going to collapse. Maybe it will, but maybe you're in the way.
Maybe you're holding opportunity back from someone else who could step into that opportunity and grow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and let's ask the question of what did you see in Derek, but I got to call him Ducky. You know, what did we see in him that we knew? And you have multiple other leaders in your company too. I'm, you know, he's obviously taking the reins on sales, but what did we see in him? How did we know that he was ready?
We didn't know. I mean, when we first hired him, he was like a
we got lucky.
bum. Like literally, we did. We did get lucky, but I will say that we had enough insight to see he was a leader in Young Life. And he was a catcher on a baseball team, which is the captain of the baseball team. The dude told us that his dad, since he was like 10 years old, every year, every day, he had to do 10 times the age he was in push-ups and sit-ups. So from 10 years on, he had to do like 100 push-ups, 111, 110. Like, I'm like, okay, this dude knows how to work, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'm willing to take a gamble on this, like, you know, young man, if you could call him that at the time. And I think, you know, it was just, we pointed him in the right direction and he would go there, and we just kept pushing him and directing him and leading him and coaching him. And he just kept following that. Right. And we really did get lucky in a lot of ways with him, to be honest.
But I'll also say this, the reason why we got referred to Ducky is because we sent an email out to our database and said, hey, here's who we're looking for. I don't remember what that, you know, that email
ridiculously
said.
Responsible. We're looking for somebody who's ridiculously responsible. Yes.
And it was a bullet point list of a couple things that we were very clear on what we were looking for. And we had a client at the time, Jeff Boyda, who said, this sounds exactly like Ducky Ryan. And he forwarded that email to Ducky and got us connected to him. And when we were interviewing him, we're like, dude, how much money do you want to make this year? He's like, 30 grand would be awesome. We're like, all right, I think we can do that.
Yep.
But he started off as Chris's showing agent, became a buyer agent. And by the way, when we were like trying to like kick him out of the nest to be like, yo, dude, you're a buyer agent, go do your buyer agent thing, he was like, nah, I'm kind of comfortable in this showing agent thing. Let me just hang out here for a little bit. And we're like, nah, you got this. So, but he's one of those rare people that like when you tell him to do something, they do it.
He does it,
you know?
Right.
And I remember like a year in to him being a buyer agent, he turned around to me one day, we were, you know, making calls or something together. And he goes, I can't believe this is actually working. Like I just call up all these people and have conversations with them. And now some of them are like wanting to buy and sell houses. This is crazy. I'm like,
love it.
Yeah, it works.
It's weird.
You guys said you're lucky. You really weren't. I mean, yes, and you were blessed, whatever word you want to use. And you also went into it prepared. You asked you had clarity on what you were looking for. You were very specific about what you were looking for.
Yep.
And then you looked for evidence of that having already occurred in that person's life before they started working with you. I think some people, they're like, oh, this is what I want, blah, 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 blah. But then they don't go deep to look at, well, what does history tell you about this person before they join your team?
Right.
What I love is that the ridiculously, what was it again?
Ridiculously
responsible
is such a Chris thing, because it was this person was going to be working with Chris, which I love. But that, you know, it's funny how clear you got, probably from painful situations prior to that, right? Or the wrong person, whatever. But those things teach us what we really need. And then boom, that was delivered, which, I mean, clarity is power, right? We say that all the time.
Amen.
I love it.
Yeah. And
oh
I'll
my gosh.
just say one more thing too. So on our team, you know, the gal who's been with us the longest, Diana, so she's on the operations side, and it's really cool to see her growth trajectory as well, because when she came into our business, she's pretty timid, pretty mild mannered. And like over the course of the last, 7 or 8 years that she's been with our business, she really has grown a lot, and she became a leader. And I would say, if you would have asked me when we hired her day one, is Diana going to blossom into a leader? And I'd be like, not very likely, but she really has stepped up a ton. And so it's pretty cool to see her like grow over time. And we probably didn't invest nearly as much in her as we should have. But now, like being around the growth environment and you know, things like that, and seeing what other people around her are doing, she's really grown a ton. And I think something clicked when she became a mom for the first time. She started just taking control of things and being a lot more honest and direct with people. And it's been awesome just to see her flourishing.
That's probably one of the most important places we show up as leaders, right? At home.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
amen.
Absolutely.
So you guys, so what was the hardest thing you ever went through? Because we got to go there. We've got what, only like 14 minutes left. So we've got to talk through what are the hard things that you guys have learned from.
All right, I'm going to go first. So, I mean, one of the hardest things that I already talked about it a little bit. I don't know if Caleb knows this, to be honest with you. Might stun him on international TV here, but yeah. For me, the hardest thing I ever did was going through that time period where I wasn't making enough money. My wife is like, what is going on? You know, you need to ask. We didn't pay ourselves a salary at the time. And my wife was like, you need to talk to Caleb about having a salary. And I would, and he'd be like, we don't need to do that. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I literally thought I thought seriously about quitting, because I was like, this isn't worth it. I need to go get a job because I'm not making ends meet. I have 4 kids and, you know, this is not working. And, you know, I think I'm not even sure like exactly what got me onto the road. It was probably around the time of becoming a MAPS coach and seeing things turn around. 2018, we implemented Profit First. That changed, like, that's probably, no, it's 2019. It was in the spring of 2019, we implemented Profit First. That's probably one of the biggest factors that saved us, because we actually started to understand what our profit was and had it's so stupid simple to implement, because, you know, we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. We might be great leaders or good leaders, but we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. And so when it came to all of that, we were kind of like, I don't know what to do. We switched bookkeepers, got an amazing bookkeeper, and then implemented Profit First. And since then, it's been like just so amazing, you know, and a big turnaround. And so, you know, getting clarity on where, you know, what is it that we really wanted to do and how are we going to get there? Because at that point, I didn't know how to take our business from, I'm not making enough to support my family, to abundance, if you will. And so once we got some of those pieces in place, you know, MAPS coaching, you know, some talent, some vision, you know, systems, then it was like, okay, now we're off to the races. And I feel, you know, for the first time in a long time over the last, like, even through COVID, you know, I'm so proud of the way the team pulled together, and it's a testament to our culture over COVID and all that stuff last year. I'm just like really excited about everybody we're in business with, where the direction of our company and business is going, and what's possible to achieve together. So I don't know if Caleb has a different answer than that, but, you know, that would be my answer.
I would say, you know, that season that we talked about when we hired a bunch of people and it didn't work. I mean, we had to fire people for the first time ever. That was terrible. Since then, we've learned that you don't really ever need to fire people if you meet with them once a week and check in on how they're doing on their goals. You don't really have to ever fire anyone if you do that, because you know, when you check in on their goals and they say, okay, your goal was to set 3 appointments this week. How many did you get? 0. Oh, okay. Next week. Your goal is to set 3 appointments. How many did you get? 1. Oh, okay, great. You go next week. Your goal was 3. You got, how many did you get? 0. Okay. So then they come to you and say, hey, listen, I don't think this is the right opportunity for me. Right. But, you know, letting people go is pretty tough. And yeah, that was a tough season. I mean, I was still in sales and I was being compensated for the sales that I was making, where Chris was just making, you know, profit from the business, and it was not very profitable. Profit First definitely changed our business, and we implemented it maybe 6 or 8 months before COVID hit. And so when COVID hit, we had tons of money in reserves in our accounts, and we could say to our you know, team members, hey, look, we're good. We're still going to make payroll. You still have a job. You got nothing to worry about. And let's double down. Let's call our people. Let's make care calls. Let's, you know, check in on people and see how they're doing. And, you know, so that was a beautiful thing. But Yeah, Chris, I'll say this. I mean, I don't think I've ever told you this. So here, we're gonna break this news.
This is so fun.
On international TV. Yeah, I would say in that season when you're the hiring guy for our team, I was feeling a little bit resentful because I was working till like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, going on all these listing appointments, and you're like coming into the office, like, well, it's 4 o'clock. I'll see you later. I'm like, dude, seriously?
That's awesome.
Doesn't surprise me because like
you guys are laughing, but that's actually a real scenario.
Yeah,
I see teams, people leave teams over that.
Yes.
So how did you obviously are laughing about it now and made it way past then? Did you ever talk about that, or you just kind of like brushed it away?
No, we never talked about it. And so one of the things that the best piece of advice I've ever received in business or life is really simple. Get honest quicker. Right? So it's something I struggle with that because I just want to be nice to everybody. I want to like everyone and I want everyone to like me. And the reality of it is, if you're not 100% honest with people, especially when an issue pops up. So my natural inclination is if I see Chris walking out the door at 4 o'clock, I'm thinking, oh, that kind of pisses me off, but oh, well, it's just this one time. It'll never happen again. And then it happens again the next day. And I think, oh, well, you know, I don't really like that, but whatever. And then what'll happen is over time, it'll turn into this real big thing. And then it could potentially blow up into a big issue. So what I'm working on is addressing those things much, much sooner, right? Because what ends up happening is when we're not honest with people, our relationships get stuck, right? And the relationship can't move forward. And there's all this toxicity that's like bubbling up underneath the surface. It comes out as passive aggressive, or one little thing goes wrong and you blow up. And so that's just not cool. So one of the things I'm learning to do is when there's a tough conversation that needs to be had, having that conversation much faster and setting it up properly. So when you have to have that tough conversation, say, hey, listen, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be with you right now? And, you know, they're usually going to say 10. And then you can just say, hey, listen, you know, when you're leaving at 4 o'clock every night and I'm here till 8:30 working on getting listings and stuff, it makes me feel like we're not, you know, on equal footing in this business. Right. And then we can just have a conversation about it. Right. So
I love that you said that. And I want to circle back to what we were talking about before we jumped on the call, which was disc profiles. And we have an SC, and Caleb, you're an I what?
ID.
Okay, so we lead with S and we lead with I. So I know a lot of people will be listening back to this later, and a lot of our operations people struggle with getting honest quicker. And I want them to hear what a great example you guys are of that, because that's not natural behavior for you. And yet you're working on it because you know it's important. And it goes back to also what Lindsay said earlier about if you're meeting with your people, and Caleb, you said this too, if you're meeting with your people every week, it's easier to get honest quicker, right?
Let me give you a really good piece of advice that Jay Ritchie, he was our second coach, gave us. And I thought when he gave me this, I thought that is such an awkward question. I don't think I could ever ask that. So in a meeting with, you know, anyone who's on your team as a leader, just ask the question, hey, if you were me, what would you be worried about? Yeah. Oh my gosh. That question will open up the floodgates. So when you're talking to that high S personality profile who doesn't want to, you know, make any waves, that's like an invitation to say, hey, like, give me what you got, right? If you were me, what would you be worried about?
Love it.
We had some really good questions that were thrown at us in our last episode too that I loved. There was one that was, hey, when you're brushing your teeth or in the shower and you're fighting with me, like what are you saying? And what are you talking to your spouse about? Like, what are you saying about me to your spouse? And I thought, man, that just, do you really want to ask those questions? But, you know, all three of those, like, man, I'm going to hang those in front of my head, because I just think, like, I mean, if we're not willing to go there as leaders and hear that stuff, are we really leading? You know, because we're not growing and we're not taking it. Man, did you guys start asking each other that question, or take a while?
You know what? I think we've asked our team members that question a lot more than we've asked each other that question. Chris, I don't know if I've ever asked you that question. So.
No, I've heard you ask it, but
Yeah.
I also know that we talk a lot, and at least in the last 2 years, maybe we've been on the same page with that a lot. So,
Well, I have a private message that came through. So I think they wanted to make sure that they weren't seen, but this is a great question. So I'm going to read it. So it is, a lot of people are really scared and worried about partnerships. I've had multiple go to hell. How in the heck have they done this for this long, and how have they really made it work? I think this is amazing, but I have seen them, especially in real estate, be destroyed over and over and over again. So if you have to leave that person with something.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, seriously, you look at the divorce rate in the United States, because I mean, those are partnerships of a different kind, and it's not easy to be in a long-term close relationship with anybody, whether it's business or not. And I think it starts with you. You've got to look at yourself, and you got to believe that the other person is doing the very best that they can. And like I said, you've got to have some trust in that person. And in order to have trust, you've got to have level 10 conversations, as Caleb and I like to talk about it. It's like, you got to have those open, honest conversations. Don't jump in, just like, having a life partner or getting married, you don't jump into those relationships in that legal sense, too quickly. I wouldn't. You want to make sure that, just like interviewing people, it's the very best, they're showing up the best way possible, right?
Yes.
And eventually you're gonna see more and more of who they really are. And the best way to get to know somebody is to live with them. And so from a business standpoint, that's not really going to happen, but you can observe them and get to know them, a little bit more slowly or through a process. And so from a business standpoint, I would take that very seriously and take it slow. Observe them over time and see, do they share the same values as you? Do they want the same thing as you? Does their life overall look fairly similar? At the time, I like to joke about it. Caleb got married twice in 2010, first to me business wise, and then to his wife in August. Yeah. And, I knew that he wanted a similar thing to what I wanted as far as family and all that kind of stuff goes. And let's be honest, if you're a single person and don't really want family and kids, that's a different lifestyle than somebody who does. And so that's a values thing. It's what do you value? What do you want to be on the same path with? And so it is a hard thing. You got to take it slow. You got to really get to know somebody. And I did know Caleb for about 2 years before we got into business. So Caleb, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think the values match is huge. I think getting to know each other. So we got to know each other with no intentions of becoming business partners. So Chris was showing himself the real Chris LaGarde to me. I was being the real Caleb to him. And so there was no idea that we were going to be business partners, which I think helped, right? And then the other thing I'll say in terms of business partnerships is the importance of role clarity. Role clarity is really important. So when we started our partnership, he was the buyer agent, I was the listing agent. If Chris's parents needed to sell their house, Chris was not going to say, oh, well, this is my parents, so I'm going to represent them on the listing side. No, if Chris's parents needed to sell their house, I was going to list their house. If my parents needed to buy a house, I was sending them to Chris, right? So things get a little funky when you start getting all these gray areas going on, okay? And the other thing I'll say as well is being clear on what we brought to the table, right? So I said earlier, I liked what Chris brought to the table in terms of marketing expertise, graphic design expertise. He was further down the road in his sales career than I was. He was selling more homes than I was. I was more like the lead generation guy. I was the scripts guy. I was going to be more of a driver of business, and he had a really, really good sphere of influence. So we were really clear on what we did well, and don't go into partnership with somebody who is the same thing as you. Why do you just want two of you? Two of you isn't going to do anything special. You got to go into business with somebody that brings something to the table that you don't have.
Right. Awesome. Well, listen, so we're right at the top of the hour there. Christy, do you have anything more you need to ask?
No, Well, yeah, 20 more questions, but yeah, no, I think that was a really great question that came in, and a really good place to finish up.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm very thankful for this conversation. We have seen a lot of partnerships fail. And listen, I think every time we go into business with somebody, I do look at that as a partnership, right? And I know you guys do as well. And so we have lots of partners all over the place, but I'm thankful for you guys coming on here. I'm thankful for your wisdom, and more than anything, I think thankful for the conversation around, stepping out and letting other people go. We have a hard time doing that. And you guys are surely a testament to letting people run the business and might be able to do it better than you. How can people get a hold of you? How can they send referrals? All those things.
Well, I was just going to say, we both love helping people, right? So, my mission is to help people find, create, pass on abundant life. And so if somebody has questions, we're open books. You're welcome to look us up on Facebook. I know you've tagged us in these posts that you have on the Facebook page. You can email me at chrislagarde@kw.com. I'd be happy to help. And we serve the western suburbs of Philadelphia, so same area as Lindsay. So if you have any referrals and want to send them to us, we'd be happy to take them.
You guys can duke it out.
Yeah,
that's right.
You can shoot me a text. Text is the best way to get in touch with me. 484-995-1591. Don't email me, or I probably will never email you back. Sorry.
I'm different.
You're gonna get
I
all the
will
texts.
email you back.
Yes, I love it. Well, you guys, thank you for spending the hour with us. We know how valuable your time is. Thank you. And yes, MAPS coach, team leader. If you have questions about, Keller Williams, all things MAPS, coaching, leadership, they're two of the brightest minds I know. So please reach out to them. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
It's been so much fun.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.